So we're going to change it up a little bit now, and we're going to talk about the competition again. So I came across Peep in a blog that I was reading, actually to figure out how we get ahead of the competition if you can't use product features and you think you're doing something in a highly saturated market, or you think there's a lot of competition, how you use content to get ahead of the competition. So Peep, I will let you take yourself off mute and quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll run through a few questions between us. And again, any questions that you have the cohort, then you can raise your hand, you can post in the chat, and we'll get through them.
Well, hello there, and it's Pep, not Peep. Pep.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Pep.
Peep Laja. Yeah, I'm the founder of Wynter. I founded 3 companies, CXL and Speero. Also, my company is still around. I'm just not actively participating in the day-to-day management anymore. So now I'm growing a new SaaS company.
And can you tell us a bit about the previous companies?
So yeah, about 11 years ago, I started a SaaS company in 2009 that didn't work out, shut it down 2 years later. Then I started an agency, a consulting business. We run managed experimentation programs for the enterprise. That's still around. It's kind of let's say a market leader in its own space. And then maybe 6 years ago, I started an e-learning company called CXL, which is the marketing training for B2B companies and e-commerce companies. That's still kicking butt. And so 2 years ago, I launched this new SaaS company called Wynter.
And then can you just explain what Wynter does?
Wynter is a message testing platform. So I connect B2B SaaS companies with people they're trying to sell to, market to. And I can then put your messaging, your homepage, your landing page, whatever marketing materials you have in front of your actual target audience and give you back rich qualitative data on what do they think about it? Do they get it? Do they want it? Why? And so on. I have prepared kind of a 30-minute talk on how to win in competitive, saturated spaces.
Awesome.
So if you're still interested, we can start with that.
Yeah, let's do it. I've just turned on screen share if you've got slides, but if not, no worries.
I do have them. So can you see it?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, let's get into it. The fact of the matter is that there have never been more brands than there are today. You know, it's extremely saturated out there. I'm sure you've all seen this slide from the MarTech landscape. I mean, there are more than 100,000 SaaS companies out there, right? It's crazy how many companies there are. And if you compare like 10 years ago, so 2012 versus 2022, it's like more than 50 times more companies today. So it's very noisy out there. And whoever is the category king, you know, like Salesforce and CRM and so on, will stay there forever, really. Like Heinz was a leader in ketchup in the 70s, making billions of dollars. Still the leader today. There were decades of time where somebody could come in and disrupt Heinz. Now, once you're in there, once you're the king of the category, you will stay there forever. The stability of market positions is astonishing. Like the few case studies of where the category king has fallen, you know, like Nokia or Kodak, these are extremely rare stories. So really, if you operate in a saturated, mature category, like CRM, email marketing, productivity tools, you don't have a chance. Like you're never going to take down Salesforce. It's not going to happen. And that has profound implications of how you want to set your competitive strategy. Right? So, you know, you can't beat category kings. So what do you do? What do you do? And why are category kings is because of this law called the double jeopardy law. If you haven't read the book, How Brands Grow, Byron Sharp, this dude here, it's amazing. So basically, the bigger you are, the bigger you will get. And smaller companies have a hard time. They need to work 3 times as hard as large companies. The brand power is everything. Larger companies have less churn, smaller companies have way more churn. So really the odds are stacked against the small businesses. And again, this has profound effects. And why do the large companies keep on getting bigger? It has to do with the concept of mental availability. And the mental availability is really if a buyer thinks about what do I buy? Like if I'm considering an email marketing tool, let's say I want to buy an email marketing tool, who comes to mind? Okay, there's MailChimp, and like what are all these companies that come to mind? And category leaders are always top of mind. They have the most space in our minds, right? And so people even, this is an example from LinkedIn. You see this every day. Somebody asks, hey, what's your favorite CRM? They say HubSpot, they say Salesforce. They name the category kings. There's not a single small company mentioned anywhere on these things, unless it's the founder themselves plugging their company, right? And so your job as a marketer, as a founder, is to get inside that very limited consideration set. So if I'm shopping for an email marketing, how do you get into my consideration set? How do you make sure that I even consider you as an alternative against category leaders? Yeah, it's very hard. So how do you do that? Well, that's the rest of my talk about. And so people recommend tools they've never used. People recommend HubSpot and Salesforce and all these other category kings all the time because they have heard about them. And what I see with Wynter, like my company, I see people recommending Wynter all the time on social, on LinkedIn and Twitter and so on, because we're the only one doing what we're doing. These people recommending us have never used us. I know, because we're still small enough. I know exactly who's our customer. So I see people who never use us recommend us because they have heard about us. There's massive, massive implications there. And so the all rational B2B buyer is a myth. So if I'm shopping for email marketing, it's not like I go to G2, I look up all the B2B SaaS companies in this category, and there's like 550 of them, 550. And then I create this matrix and I compare features, and nobody does that. Nobody does that. It's like the three that I've heard of that are the safe options, and then maybe I'll look into fourth and fifth option as like interesting options. Yeah. So that's really how it works across all categories. So how do we get inside that consideration set? And there are really three ways to get there. So number one way is innovation. So innovation means that your company is doing something objectively better than other companies, competitive companies. Now, the challenge is, of course, can you name a company that is objectively better than its competitors? Anyone? Are you able to name even a single company that's objectively better? Let's see in the chat here. How can I see the chat? Let's see. Well, I don't know. For some reason I cannot see it. So even if you have great ideas, so it's very, very hard. So these are two Toyota Corollas, right? The one on the right, old one. Yeah, I mean, I guess it looks cooler than the new one, but the new car is objectively better in every single category: mileage, comfort, safety, speed, whatever is. So more people would buy that one, right? Google is the only objectively better company that I could come up with. Like, it's better than Bing, better than DuckDuckGo, but like, what else is there? It's extremely, extremely difficult. So when Tinder came about, maybe 10 years ago, 2012, I think it was. So dating category was already saturated. So many, like Plenty of Fish and the Match.com and all these companies, and they managed to become the king of their category because they brought innovation, like the swiping UX. I mean, moral judgments aside, what do we think about it? They brought innovation, right? And then since then, Bumble, Hinge, and all these companies copied them and also became big, being fast followers. Tesla was a category of one. A category of one brought innovation to cars, because like if you're like shopping for BMW versus Audi versus Mercedes, like there's no difference between these cars. It's only a brand difference, right? Tesla was objectively different, objectively better because it had electric motors, right? Today, everybody's making electric cars. So Tesla's innovation advantage is ceasing to exist. I think 2 more years and there's none. So Tesla too will have to compete on brand just like everybody else. And so innovation, if you can bring it, is only a transient advantage. You can only milk it for so many years, and eventually everybody else will copy you and catch up. So if you want to compete on innovation, you have to be always 2 steps ahead, which requires a lot of money and a lot of R&D work. So as a small startup, really you cannot win on innovation unless you're a mad scientist, in which case, congrats. But other than if you're not a scientist, you don't have a ton of money, that's not really how you can compete. Second way you can compete is by having more money than everybody else. So we buy our way into the consideration set. Case in point, Monday.com. So Monday.com is just like ClickUp, Asana, Jira, and all these other project management tools that we know. Right? Is it any better? Hell no. It's more of the same. If you ask me, productivity tools should just say, why not try us next? Because there's really no difference between these tools. They're all the same. Each have their own problems. So how did Monday become a giant in this giant category? By outspending everyone else. And this is public finances that they've published. So if you look at the top row, this is quarterly revenue, 17 mil and 21 mil and 26 mil and so on. Now look at the line, sales and marketing, 26 mil, 33 mil, 30 mil. They spent more on advertising each quarter than was their revenue. So this is the law of excess share of voice. So excess share of voice is a proven way, has been used for hundreds of years, or at least 100 years. In the 20th century, it was a standard go-to-market model of how to dominate thinking. Is basically, if you spend more on advertising than your competitors, normalized to your market share, you will grow. Your market share will grow. That's how Lidl grew in the UK, and so on. So, of course, again, if you're a small startup, can you compete with having more money, outspending everybody else? I mean, VC money is a nice thing to have, right? If you can get it, and if you can get Monday style, like if you go to Crunchbase and see how much they raised, it's insane. And of course, you can only raise that much money if you have a huge TAM. Everybody uses some sort of a project management tool. So the TAM is ginormous, so they were able to raise a lot of money. If you have small TAM, I mean, you're not even able to raise money. It needs to be $1 billion outcome or bust, right? Anything below $1 billion, you're not going to be able to raise money in most cases. So really, the only viable option for small startups is to win beyond the product, beyond innovation, and beyond money. And so this is where we come in with narrative, positioning, messaging, and content. And those are the things that will get us to the consideration set, which is our goal to begin with. So how to set our marketing strategy? First of all, we need to decide what kind of category we are in. So every category we can measure based on how many competitors are in there, direct competitors are in there. And then category maturity, like email marketing has been around for 3 decades, right? It's very mature, 550 tools. So if you're in a category that has a highly mature category, tons of competition, the way to your marketing strategy should be about selling your differentiated value. You don't say, do email marketing. No, everybody knows what is email marketing. Everybody's already doing email marketing. Everybody already has an email marketing tool. So your way is, you have to sell differentiation. It's the only way to win. If you're more of the same, you don't have a chance. If you're doing something new, something innovative, something maybe you have only a couple of direct competitors or none at all, you're doing a new thing, then you sell the category. You should do email marketing. Or like, this is the box where I'm in with Wynter. Do message testing. B2B companies should be doing message testing. If you look at the marketing I do, I'm selling the category. I'm selling the category because I'm the only tool in the category. I'm raising awareness around a problem. Hey, you have never looked at your problem through these eyes. So I'm selling the category. It's very important. You decide which game you're going to play. And then once you've decided, there are 3 things you need to do. You need to stand out, meaning you need to be noticed. What stands out gets picked. If they don't notice you, if you're more of the same, you're never going to get into the consideration set. Then once they learn that you exist, step one, very most important step, I think, is them knowing that you exist. Then you need to stay top of mind, because at all times, 95% of the target market is not shopping for you. They're going to shop, they're going to buy you 2 years from now. So meanwhile, you got to build up mental availability so they think of you when they have the need and the budget and etc. And finally, you need to out convert once you get them on somebody with a buying intent on your website. So let's look at these things. So standing out. There's this concept called the law of shitty click-throughs. And this is invented by Andrew Chen, former VP growth of Uber, currently running Reforge. So basically, law of shitty click-throughs means that any marketing tactic or anything really that works really well eventually will stop working as well, because everybody will jump on it. 10 years ago, when I started my blog on cxl.com, I used pop-ups. You read an article and pop-up, capture email. I had 15% conversion rate. So 15% of the blog article readers gave me their email address just because I used a pop-up. Today, if you can convert 1%, you're doing phenomenally well. Like the click-through rate is tanked. The very first display banner ad that was ever shown on the internet by Wired magazine sometime in the 90s had a 99% click-through rate. Today, banner ads get a 0.001% click-through rate. So this happens with everything. So what is the implication of this? The implication is that if you do marketing just like everybody else, you're not going to stand out. You're going to get shitty click-throughs. You need to do pattern interrupt. You need to go against the mainstream. So so look at this, somebody's trying to do a webinar. Of course, this example is 4 years old. Hopefully your advertising is not as bad. Manage your digital future is the headline. What? Or join our webinar to see how an enterprise-wide rollout of business information can be achieved. This is so boring. It's like nobody will ever find out about you. This is your marketing. Predictable, safe, boring shit, right? So you need marketing R&D, just as you treat your product R&D. It's like, okay, everybody's doing webinars. How can we completely flip and disrupt the model of how marketing is done? How can we do webinars completely differently? How can we do everything different? So you need new playbooks. You need to tap into new channels, try new formats for content. If you write blog posts like everybody else, you're never going to make it, because everybody has a massive SEO moat. They've built backlinks for like a decade or more. You're never going to catch up. Never. If you do blogging just like everybody else, right? So you need pattern interrupt. And really, so your marketing needs to function on this explore and exploit way. So you have, and my point of view is that if you do your marketing, you have two teams, or you've divided. I understand you have small teams as a startup, maybe 2 people, or maybe it's just you. And so one team or one side is constantly tinkering with the new stuff. We're finding new shows for our content, new formats for our content, new channels, new whatever. And then when you find something that works, you start exploiting, you start milking that. Oh, let's do more of it. Let's invest more of it. Let's put more, money and effort in this. That's exploitation. Eventually, the law of shitty click-throughs will kick in. It will stop working as well. And so it's this wheel, right? This is how you think about it. So let's assume that these people here, they're all the category buyers. These are all the people that can buy something, right? And so Apple is over here, Samsung is over here. Very, very little overlap. Not a lot of people. Some people sometimes buy a Samsung phone, sometimes buy an Apple phone. LG came to market, overlapped almost entirely with Samsung, took them on head to head, and Samsung destroyed them. So the lesson here is that if you take on a category king head on, and category kings, remember, they cannot be beat. They have more money, more brand power. LG doesn't even make branded phones, I think, anymore. Like they're a subcontractor for a bunch of companies, right? They got destroyed. So HubSpot is over here, Salesforce is over here. There's significant overlap between the two. So if you were a new CRM, in terms of your positioning, the type of customers you wanted to go after, where would you want to go? I think it would be wise to go somewhere here. You do not overlap with these giants at all, because they will kick your ass. Or maybe you overlap here where you go after their least profitable companies so they don't fight you, which is a classic disruptive Clayton Christensen stuff, right? You go after this is how Kia and Hyundai became big. Like they started nibbling at the cheapest buyers of Toyota, and Toyota was, they're never going to make it. And now, of course, Kia and Hyundai are big because the strategy worked gloriously. When Drift, conversational marketing tool, came to the market, really they were a live chat tool, live chat with some bots. Did they call themselves a live chat tool? No, they positioned themselves very differently. Live chat had been around for 20 years. Super boring, saturated category. They had a new frame about what Drift is about, became a unicorn. Never once talked about itself as a live chat tool. So if you're entering a big category like live chat, right, you need to invent a new job to be done, to be different. Like conversational marketing is a new job to be done. And let me explain this, what it means. A consideration set, which tools do I consider to buy for my company? It's really like, what is the job that needs to get done? So if I need heat maps done, and I'm a small business, I think of Hotjar, right? Small heat maps for small business is Hotjar. Whereas if I'm an enterprise, I might think of Content Square or something. HubSpot is a CRM for scaling companies, or CXL is a training company for marketing teams, not like LinkedIn Learning or Udemy. Those are for like everybody, like a specific job to be done. Or look at Copper CRM, extremely saturated category CRM, and they say, if you use Google Workspace, we're the CRM for you. Very specific positioning, not overlapping specifically with like HubSpot or Salesforce, right? Very smart. So prerequisites for crisp positioning, which is what you want to have, is like you say, what is it? You lead with a category. You mention category in your marketing, on your website, and so on. The category. Who is it for? Who is the ICP? So they never wonder. And you mention specifically what is the use case, like what problem do you solve for them? So look at Klaviyo. Klaviyo entered a very saturated market of email marketing tools. It was a very late comer. MailChimp had been around for 10 years or more. So Klaviyo chose a new market where email marketing for e-commerce. Today, of course, Klaviyo is like worth more than $10 billion. It's a category king of email for e-commerce. And even today, when you go to their website, they lead with a category: e-commerce marketing automation platform. There's no doubt about what is it, right? Or Gorgeous, same idea. When they launched, Zendesk was already a decacorn or something. Help desk software. They also chose, we're help desk for e-commerce, uniquely solving the help desk challenges that e-commerce companies had that Zendesk didn't solve for as well. And same, like crisp positioning, e-commerce help desk, right? Crisp positioning here. This is me, Wynter. Message testing platform. What is it? That's the category, right? And then I go into like, who's it for and what do you do with it and so on. Fuzzy positioning, which is what you don't want to have, is something like this. Better teamwork, fewer meetings. Oh, it's a place for remote and hybrid teams. And I'm like, well, what is it? I look at the screenshot, like, what does this replace? Does it replace Slack? Or do I use it instead of like Asana? I don't know. And do I bother to stay around and find out? No, I get busy. I got to pick up kids from school. I got like shit to do, right? They've lost it. Like fuzzy positioning, or even worse is this type of stuff where you have the rotating headlines, manage projects across product or support, agencies, market. It's like, we don't even know what problems we solve for home. So let's just say it all, right? Very common with small startups. Don't do that. It's terrible. It's the worst position you can have. Same. So no rotating shit. You have to be ultra dialed into, you go for a very specific ICP. And then, okay, they learn about you. They know you're for a very specific job to be done. How do you stay top of mind? Mental availability is the name of the game, right? Being thought of by category buyers in buying situations. So what do you do here? So, you could take a page out of Profitwell marketing playbook, which is like, they have different ICPs. They have e-commerce companies and SaaS companies. It's a subscription analytics company. And so they have created different media shows, a podcast, video shows, and so on for different ICPs. And so they're producing content, and not in like writing blog posts, but like shows with like, there's a series, there's a format. It's like a TV show, right? It's like MasterChef. There are different episodes. People get used to the format, and they produce a bunch. So always, if you're interested in a topic like pricing, they have a pricing show, so you keep on learning about pricing. Next time you need a pricing tool, boom, profit well, right? I run this show called Do You Even Resonate, where I do B2B messaging teardowns on LinkedIn. This is my LinkedIn show, Do You Even Resonate? If you look at this hashtag, you can see some shows that I'm producing. So anybody who's B2B SaaS, interested in messaging, positioning, I stay top of mind when they're following me on LinkedIn. I do virtual events. I do every other month. Some companies do virtual events once a year. Like, think of this big thing. Tyler, interrupt. Why does it need to be once a year? I used to do it every month, but I'm a small startup still, so now I do it every other month. And who's speaking at the event? I mean, virtual events. Nobody ever listens to virtual events from beginning to end. Like, people have shit to do. It's too long time. So really, it's not about who's tuning in. It's really who's speaking. And who do I invite to speak at this event? My ICPs. So they find out that I exist. I build a relationship with them, and so on and so forth. I stay top of mind. So I'm always including my ICPs in event co-creation. I do a monthly virtual workshop, same idea. Whoever is my ICP, I invite them to present, to teach, and so on and so forth. Build a relationship. I run a podcast, so if you follow me, my company, there are so lots of hooks in the sea. Once they find out that I exist, I want to create a surround sound effect that I'm everywhere. Like, you cannot ignore me. And if you can do advertising, you want to advertise broadly to all category buyers. So you take your annual ad budget. No, it doesn't matter how big or small it is. You divide by 12, divide by 30, and that's how much you spend every day. No spikes in advertising. You want to have steady going, that type of stuff. I produce funny ads, funny commercials. I'm not actually sure if I should play this, because I'm not sure how it will come across in a Zoom meeting. So I'm going to click play on this. So Purdy, give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it. No?
No.
Okay. Doesn't matter. Okay, whatever. You can go to YouTube, Wynter, Best Man Speech, and see all B2B ads are effing boring. We created funny ads. Neuromarketing is clear that the best thing that works in marketing is contrast, before and after. I was fat and now I'm skinny. I was weak and now I'm strong. The type. So I created this ad, and now I'm retargeting. And whoever comes to my site, who I think is like an MQL, I follow them around with my retargeting ads because it's cheap. And the final point is, like, you need to out-convert the people who are on your website, out-convert the competition. Because if you can acquire customers cheaper than they can, that's how you dominate. And so how do you out-convert them? Well, so conversion, somebody signing up for a thing, somebody buying a thing, that's the effect. You cannot influence the effect directly. You need to work on the cause. So what makes somebody take action, right? What is it's messaging. The best way to get somebody to do something is to make them want to do it. And how do you make somebody want to do it? You need to increase their motivation to take action. The only way to do it is through words. And that's messaging. It can be video, it can be text. It's mostly text. And so working on user motivation is far more impactful than working on minimizing friction on your website. So there's a bunch of data there that show how influential is copy messaging relative to other stuff like design. So symptoms of ineffective messaging are very hard to diagnose. Like, if you look at your website, it's very hard to know, like, is this good or not? The only way to find out if your messaging is good is to put it in front of a target audience and find out very specific things. You want to understand clarity. Do they get it? Relevance. Do they think it's for them? Do they get it that it's for them? Differentiation. Do they understand why you are not the other people? Do they want the value that you promise? You're teasing the promised land. Do they want to go there? Right? And finally, brand. Like, do they like? Are you making them feel in a certain way? Do they resonate with your point of view and things like that. So that's the things that you want to measure. You don't want to measure things like, hey, would you buy from me? Because people are unable to predict their behavior. And so your key thing to increase conversion rate, you need to find out what messages does your target buyer need to hear to buy. And you find it out through buyer research, buyer intelligence, message testing, things like that. So you need to stand out, because what stands out gets picked. You need to stay top of mind always, so they'll think about you when it's time to buy, and you need to out-convert. David Cancel, the founder of Drift, said, this is already like 5 years ago, that product-led differentiation is going away. Act accordingly. And I think this is even truer today. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was incredible. If anybody has any specific questions, as always, you can raise your hand and ask directly. And then any questions that are on the chat, we can come to those as well. So feel free to pop any questions in the chat as well. Jim, do you want to ask a question first?
Yes. Sorry, I came in a little bit late to your presentation, but I'll definitely catch up. I have two questions for you. One of them I've already written down, but I'll go ahead and say it. Is fuzzy positioning okay for a coming soon website? So in my case, I'm just doing, like, it's very early stages, pre-seed, pre-revenue. I just want to have somewhere where I can sign people up and start to gather my own data eventually. So yeah, that's my question.
No, the answer is no, because nobody cares. Like you need to speak to a specific problem, that somebody has a very specific problem. And the more specific it is, the better luck you will have. It's a common, I guess, a paradox that startups have, that you think you will go faster by selling to multiple buyers. The opposite is true. You will grow much faster if you zoom in on a single buyer type. So for instance, Wynter, my company's, I'm bootstrapped. I don't even know if I want to raise, but maybe down the line. So I'm 2 years old with Wynter. This year, we're first time breaking the magic number of 1 million in revenue, 1.2 million we're going to do this year. Last year we did 400K. Now, and we are very specific about the problem we solve and who we're solving it for. It's B2B SaaS, 10 million plus, and the buyer is VP product marketing. So I can go and build relationships with VP product marketings. I can now go and be visible in that ecospace. I can survey them and talk to them, know exactly what their problems are. How do they think about the problems I solve? What language do they use? So I can reflect it back to them on my website, in my marketing, and so on and so forth. So if you're fuzzy and you don't know, what you need to do is just customer development work. You need to just talk to a bunch of people and find out who has the most pressing problem that you might be able to solve. You can expand later. But I want to say that first 10 million in revenue, single ICP.
Cool, great, thank you. That's a lot of food for me. I literally have slapped on my logo and just gone, coming soon. So I'm definitely gonna look into like really making my solution as clear as possible. So my second question is, I'm really interested on your Spotify side of things, and it's something that I would like to pursue. But I kind of want to ask, how did you get into it? Was it difficult? And I guess, did you need to kind of be active elsewhere in order to get a following to listen to you?
So you mean podcast?
Yes. Oh, and also, did it have to be relevant to your business?
Yes, absolutely. If you do it to get money, yes. I don't know. I mean, if you want to just start a cooking podcast on the show because you love it, go for it. But if it's for audience building for a business, I mean, you need to talk about the problems and things that they are interested in. Now, podcast is the hardest channel to grow, in my experience. I've been a content creator for over a decade. I used to be a big time blogger. Now I have less time to write, but I built my previous companies on top of SEO blogging. So I want to say that I post the best medium to get into is social media. If you're in B2B, that's LinkedIn, and you post every single day. I get a far better reach with a single LinkedIn post than a podcast episode, but the amount of effort that goes into a podcast episode, is far higher. My podcast is weekly, and I've been now doing it for a year and a half. I have a significant following online, but even now, I have on average, I want to say 700 downloads per episode of my podcast. So 700 people. Of course, the podcast analytics are crappy. The actual number might be bigger, but it's the hardest channel to grow in my experience. So my advice would be if you want to do podcasting, great, but you need to do it because you love it. Mm-hmm. Not because you're going to make money off it. You're going to make money. If you want to make money fast through an audience, go on LinkedIn.
Cool.
I generate 90% of my sales pipeline from LinkedIn organic content.
That's amazing. I already thought of LinkedIn to be a place to pursue a lot of my marketing. I know some people that I follow here do. So this is definitely, again, food for thought. And I think it's also kind of galvanized my positioning on potentially doing a podcast, because it is more of a passion project than it is to pursue a revenue. But thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Awesome. Mitali?
Hi there. So I am creating a new category, I think. I've got an online party platform, which is specifically for DJs and fans of dance music. And the problem I'm solving is that existing live streaming music events are lonely for DJs and fans, because it's like watching a TV with a chat box. There's no feedback loops between the different groups. So if you're trying to have a party on like Zoom, for example, you've got really poor sound quality. So my question is, positioning wise, is it better, because I've got two distinct audiences, it's a double-sided marketplace, positioning wise, am I better to have completely separate positioning for DJs and then separate positioning for party goers, or try to combine one website that's got, tries to kind of combine all of the problems? I keep flip-flopping between how best to position.
Yeah. I'm a two-sided marketplace as well, so I know the problem very well. So the answer is that yes, you need different messaging for each audience because they have a different job to be done. So absolutely. So on your homepage, you want, what I would do is on every two-sided marketplace, there's one of the sides is the hard side. It's a much harder side, and that's the one who's paying you money. A great, fantastic book is The Cold Start Problem, Andrew Chen. This is like a manual how to build your business. I highly recommend you check that out. So on your homepage, on your main thing, focus on the hard side while linking out to the other. So let's say your homepage for the DJs and so on, but it's like, hey, if you're a party goer, click here, and there's a separate page for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Evelina?
Hi, thank you. Really, really great insights. I actually wanted to ask a little bit more about testing metrics, right? So sometimes we can have these huge campaigns that brings a lot of attention to us, that we can have a lot of followers on social media, but then it doesn't necessarily translate to sales. So what are the best metrics to track in between to establish, or kind of to help us improve constantly and find, what is really wrong? What is it that you have so much positive feedback, so much noise, so many followers, and then if it doesn't translate into sales, how do you track all of that and how to kind of fix the process in that way?
Well, in the beginning, when you don't have large data volumes, it's all about qualitative research. So let's say if you post on social, what you want to pay attention to is the amount of positive feedback. You know, are they commenting? Are they liking? Are they engaging? That's the topic. Speak to them. So, you know, of course, and I'm speaking broadly because I don't know too much about their business or nothing at all, really. But like, you want to have, this is your business, and on social media, you want to, your content strategy should be to be known for one thing, be famous for one thing. So category creation and market creation, all about becoming famous for one particular thing. And then you want to talk about that one thing endlessly. So you find 365 ways to say the same thing on social media, and you're trying different angles. So everything you post should be finding an angle, and then you'll start learning what type of content seems to resonate more. And if you're in B2B, obviously it's long sales cycles. It's not like you post something, oh, that's cool, and then click on the link and buy. Never happens. You know, it's like 3 months, 6 months, 2 years. And then when it comes to them, like maybe coming to your site and not buying, then it's qualitative research. Like if you can identify who these people are, then you straight up ask them. So you can put like a widget on your website asking them, hey, what's keeping you back from signing up right now? Or what's holding you back from making a purchase today, or whatever you're selling? And you get like a 2 to 4% response rate there. So over time, you'll start to pick up on patterns. Ignore everybody who says price, because there are always people complaining about price. And then interviews. However, you talk to people who just signed up, and then try to get your social media people, you know, on Zoom calls, and just, you know, ask them. Qualitative. You need only 15 people to discover like 97% of your problems.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to trialing your platform and exploring what we can do to improve the messaging. So really exciting. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Hannah.
Hey, I really enjoyed the talk. So I'm in the B2B sort of content space, so I found it really relevant. I wanted to ask a question. I'll split it into two. It's basically about messaging and call to actions. So my challenge has been with messaging is I've kind of come down to 4 core messages, like saving time, being in the know, missing out, or leveraging. So one's got a positive, one's got a negative kind of flip side. So getting opportunities, missing out on opportunities. And I guess I'm wondering, in your experience, what do you find to be stronger in terms of that motivation when it comes to B2B companies, and when there's a SaaS product and that whole cycle? And then I'll.
And you're talking about your homepage or website messaging, yeah?
Yeah, website messaging, but even if it's then going, let's say, on a video content or something else, what's the focus? And how,
so
or how do you get there?
2 things at play here. So one is your reality, and then it's the general reality. So the general reality is that just like there's a law of shitty click-throughs, the same applies to messaging. So if your value prop, and I haven't seen your value prop, so I'm speaking generically here. If your value prop is like make more money and save time, it's so boring, I'm gonna like just fall asleep, right? Because everybody says it's been so overdone. It's been so if you say something that's very similar to what everybody else is saying, people are going to tune out. It's just boring. It's just not going to stand out. So that's just one. So you need to know what is everybody else saying, and are we saying something that really is standing out? And 2, the specific thing is like there is no such thing as what tends to work better, or what I am or somebody else is seeing. Is like what messages to your target buyers need to hear. And really, so what you need to find out is like, what are their top 3 desired gains? What are their top 3 pains they want to avoid? So this is not a guessing game. It's like you need to have hard data on what it is. You need to know what is the number 1 thing that is causing them problems, and then just say that. And that's buyer intelligence. You need to interview people you're trying to sell to.
And just on that, let's say you're kind of down to the final for you? Do you go for the gain or do you go for the pain, or which one would you start with to test more so with?
Well, gain is well, it depends on the circumstance. They might have an immense pain. I don't know, but typically, like increasing motivation is more powerful than lowering friction. So, yeah. So if you tease the promised land, like if you paint the picture of like with us, you can be here. That needs to be attractive for sure.
And then the second part of that, sort of following on, would be the call to action. So with everything, it's like you said, sometimes they want a demo, sometimes they want that. How, I guess, in your experiences, what have you found that works for a call to action in terms of bringing them to that next step with you?
What's the price point of the product?
Ranges from £400 per year to 2.5k to 3k a year.
Yeah, so it's not an impulse purchase. So, I mean, obviously you want to have, a buy now type of call to action somewhere on the site, but I would mostly focus on a lower friction intermediate step. Probably get them to join your email newsletter so you can stay top of mind, keep on messaging, increase their motivation, add value, content marketing through email.
Well, thank you so much. Really loved the talk.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yvonne.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Peep. That was really great talk. My question is not kind of directly based on your website. So I was looking at your website. Do you use it as a conversion tool? Because I've been thinking about reworking our website, and a lot of what you said makes so much sense. To stay on top of the customer's mind and make sure messaging is really direct onto who the problem is. Bit of background, ours is an EdTech tool. We are selling something very, very similar for what you're doing, but for us, it's assessment in the classroom. So it's examining, as the teacher is teaching, we're actually collecting information from the students and then using that to test them. So they're literally doing exams as they're learning. And the point behind that is we want to manually reduce assessment and marking. So if we can test as we're teaching, then we can be confident what they're learning, then we don't have to mark and assess as much as we do as teachers, then we can reduce the workload. I was looking at your website, just getting a few tips, and I'd like to know if you use it as a conversion tool or do you use it as a first point of contact. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a sales or marketing tool. Yeah, it's exactly to test your messaging with the target audience. Like Bernard Shaw had this saying where he said it a long time ago. The biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it happened or it took place. So you're signaling, you're messaging something to the target buyer, and you think it has a certain effect, but it mostly does not. So yeah, so if you improve your clarity, the people get it. If you improve relevance, people are, oh, this is for me. If you improve your value proposition, I want it, you will convert more customers. So yes, you can call it a conversion tool.
How do you know what part of your website is converting? Because you've got so many different points on your website. So how do you know which part is converting, which part they land on, which part they spend more time on, and things like that?
Well, homepage is always the king, most important page you want to get right, because that's where people that has the most visits, they spend most of their time there. Obviously, your website can be big and large. So this would be a digital analytics exercise. So what you want to do is, if you know how to use Google Analytics, you want to, let's say people visit, I don't know, your About Us page. So in Google Analytics, you create a segment, people who visited About Us page, and then you look at the conversion rate, compare it to people who did not visit the About Us page, and you look at the difference, and then you know if your About Us page is helping you convert more customers or hurting or no difference.
Thank you.
Great. And Sam. Yeah, hi there. Hi, Pete. Thank you so much for your talk. I thought it's great fun because you're just giving so much character to so many sometimes like figures and things like that, which sometimes, just either quite daunting or, like you say, blatantly boring. You just did it in a really wonderful kind of jazzed up way that made us kind of sit up and listen. And I love that approach. And I was kind of thinking, I guess that's the question, is how do you get that approach to, because obviously it's very personal to you, to have that giving character, yet you're talking about a serious subject. So to give you kind of background on what I'm doing B2B. I was a fashion buyer, came out of the fashion industry. Environmentally, it's an absolute disaster. So I'm creating a new generation material out of grape waste. I live amongst vineyards and I'm making a grape leather. So from an environmental point of view, it's better than animal leather, better than vegan leather laden with plastic. There's so many pluses there. Yet I also feel I want to give a kind of a sense of optimism almost in it, and a kind of a little bit of lightness, rather than seeing all doom and gloom and it's all absolutely awful, that somehow it's a little ray of light. And not to kind of belittle what's happening whatsoever, it's not that, but just to give optimism out there, and maybe sometimes stand in the vineyard with a glass of wine, or kind of show what there's a beautiful side to things as well, that if you use the material, a designer used the material, hopefully people would feel that as well. So I was just wondering, how do you get the balance of having a little bit of fun every now and again, but in a very serious world, as it were?
So it's a tough question.
Have a glass of wine.
Yeah, I mean, personality is what you got, right? I mean, some founders are like a piece of wood, right? You got to run the business by the numbers. If you can't bring some personality, I think really knowing your shit makes you very comfortable. So as opposed to rehearsing what to say and memorizing some facts and stuff, right? So my approach is that I just non-stop think about the problems in my industry because I'm intrinsically interested in them.
Yes.
So not a day goes by when I don't read something, listen to I drive or listen to Audible podcasts, like ferocious content consumer as well as creator. So if you know the subject matter really well, you can make it lighter. You can be irreverent.
Because I'm absorbing it all of the time. Not obsessive. Well, actually kind of obsessive. I'm intrigued by it, the whole kind of mindset change. I just think it's so positive out there. But so it's trying to bring it across without being kind of lighthearted and flippant about it, I suppose.
So I think, what really helps is getting very clear on your point of view. So here are all the facts. Here's the change in the world. Here's what's happening. And here's my point of view on what should be done about it. And so you're kind of creating up a story based on the facts. Kind of like I was doing with my presentation, is like, this is like what's happening there. And the way to win is through these things, So similar thing, and the more controversial the point of view, the better, because it makes for more interesting marketing and story.
And then being careful with it. Controversial, but not. Exactly. Okay.
I mean, not like Donald Trump controversial. Not to say stupid shit, but maybe something, a piece of or point of view that maybe goes slightly against mainstream or goes against the way things have always been done. Because often people don't stop to think.
Yes.
There's a guy on LinkedIn, and if you're active on LinkedIn, maybe you've seen him, Chris Walker from Refine Labs. He runs like a marketing agency called Refine Labs. And I mean, there are 7 billion marketing agencies out there, right? It's like everybody's very much the same, except this guy, he went with his agency in 3 years to 20 million in revenue.
Wow.
And it's through a controversial point of view. He basically said that the way people do B2B marketing is like lead gen. So like gated, download white papers, download ebooks. This is all bullshit. It's generating low quality leads, have no purchase intent. And then you have your SDRs call these people, like, hey, you want to book a meeting, like people hate being called, And then all these things that everybody's doing, you say, hey, actually, the way you do marketing is bullshit. And what actually works, this.
Yeah.
And he's talking about demand creation, demand generation. So it's like if there's a change in the world, the way you do it is bullshit. And then you propose an alternative path. And it really works.
I love it.
Really works.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's sticking to it, I think. It's having the guts, that would be the polite word to say it, the guts to actually stick with it as well. Yeah.
For
brilliant.
sure. And
That's brilliant.
obviously any controversy and going against the mainstream will bring on haters as well. So
yeah.
not like abuse, or maybe it's tougher for women for sure. I appreciate that. But just gotta have thick skin, like dogs will bark, caravan moves on.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Awesome. So that's all the time that we have for, and I think we've got through everybody's questions either way. One final question for you, Pep, and sorry for calling you Peep at the beginning, because I think everybody then followed suit.
No worries.
If you want someone to follow you, what's the best way? Do you want people following you on LinkedIn or Twitter? Or
LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm very active on both platforms.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you can just follow me to see how I'm marketing my business. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll post the links to your LinkedIn page and your Twitter page in the chat for everyone here, and we'll share it around in the WhatsApp group as well. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving that really insightful talk and answering all of our questions, and best of luck with everything you're doing.
Yep, you bet. Yep. Connect me with me on LinkedIn. I'll see you on the internet.
Yeah,
Cheers.
great. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
For everybody else, I'm going to stop recording. If you have any specific questions,